Well, John, the Pentagon has been reallocating assets from the Middle East and Pacific, moving warships to the Caribbean since August in what looks like a major military buildup for what many fear is an undeclared war.
All right, folks, so we have more emergency breaking news, this time concerning the military. More specifically, a military buildup ordered by Donald Trump into the Caribbean, which this visibly stunned Fox News national security reporter, Jennifer Griffin, is describing as a major escalation and the signs of an undeclared war. This is big news. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, let's continue this clip and dive into some of the breaking news reporting about this.
Moments ago, the Pentagon announced that it is sending the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier strike group to the Southern Command region to help with counter-narcotics efforts. The Ford strike group right now is currently in the Mediterranean and will take at least 2 weeks to get there. This is the first time that the U.S. military will not have a carrier in the Middle East. For U.S. Southern Command, this is a massive buildup of force. In fact, 14% of the Navy's fleet is now in the Caribbean, according to IEJ media, including a buildup of 10,000 Marines and sailors, a dozen warships, a U.S. Navy nuclear-powered fast attack submarine, the USS Newport News, a vessel that could be needed elsewhere, a special operations mothership with drone capabilities, and 3 guided missile destroyers, USS Stockdale, Gravely, and Jason Dunham, and the USS Iwo Jima, an assault ship, part of an amphibious ready group. They left Naval Station Norfolk in August. The USS Lake Erie, a guided missile cruiser with 32 Tomahawk missiles, was pulled from the Pacific and is now operating near Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that sure seems like a major escalation in force. 14% of that specific fleet. Yeah, not good. So let's take a look here. Just in, Hegseth sending aircraft carrier to Latin America's coast in major escalation. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is sending an aircraft carrier to the coast of Latin America in what's being called a major escalation of the Trump administration's war on alleged, quote, drug boats. The Pentagon will send the USS Gerald Ford to the area where the U.S. has been conducting military strikes on boats ahead of drugs to the U.S., according to the Associated Press, which called the move a major escalation. Again, it says something that they're pulling this out of the Middle East, right? Especially when you consider the very tenuous ceasefire that Trump brokered, which has already been violated, and yet they're deploying it in a 2-week journey to Latin America. We also talked about in a previous video a few weeks ago how Trump effectively instructed Congress that he is declaring basically an undeclared war on the drug cartels of Venezuela and Latin America. Without going into vivid detail, he has not been forthcoming, according to reports, even to the relevant senators and Senate committees of jurisdiction. So it's not just the public who's being left in the dark. It's the predominant branch, Congress, which is supposed to be the one that has the power to declare war, not the executive. So that's not good. Hegseth made a post about this on Truth Social. He says, overnight, at the direction of Donald Trump, the Department of Defense carried out a kinetic lethal strike on a vessel operated by TDA, a designated terrorist organization trafficking narcotics in the Caribbean Sea. And again, offering no evidence other than just a video that the boat was struck. No one doubts the boat was struck, but it's just like, where's your evidence? See if the Associated Press has any updates here. Let's see. Congress warily watches later U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean. The drumbeat of deadly strikes and the alleged drug boats, and the tough talk from Trump about a possible land incursion into Venezuela are widely viewed in Congress, on both sides of the political aisle, as a potential escalation of military involvement in the region. Ahead of Friday's announcement that the U.S. military is sending an aircraft carrier to the waters off South America, Representative Adam Smith of Washington, the top Democrat in the House Armed Services Committee, said there is a growing concern on both sides of the aisle over the Pentagon's lack of transparency to Congress, which is what I was just talking about. Quote, who are these people? What's the plan? Smith told the Associated Press in an interview late Thursday. Quote, they're basically saying, drug dealers, we killed them, trust us, end of story, which, by the way, should never be the end of the story. Smith says, quote, has the whiff of extrajudicial killings. The whiff? It's basically like a stench, and we are standing downwind. Remember, it's so important. Even if these people are whom the Trump administration say they are, that they're drug smugglers. That's bad. Drug smugglers are not good, but they are still entitled to due process and civil liberties. They are not enemy combatants. You are still obligated, according to both domestic and international law, to interdict and detain them and prosecute them. You are not supposed to be unilaterally killing them. And I will remind you that, again, we have no evidence of the drug smugglers in the first place. But number two, we also found out recently that there were survivors from a recent boat struck by the U.S. military, not in self-defense, but proactively. The U.S. military struck the boat. 2 people survived. The military sent them back to their country of origin. Well, wait a minute. I thought these guys were terrorists that you were trying to kill. What the hell are you doing sending them? Like, I'm glad you didn't kill them, but like, you're inconsistent, right? Suggests like you're kind of full of shit, right? In the Senate, a bipartisan war powers resolution led by Virginia Democratic Senator Tim Kaine that would block military action in Venezuela is heading towards a vote in the coming weeks. We'll see what happens because it's not looking good that Republicans will actually stand up to this shit. Warner, Heim seek information about Caribbean strikes. The top Democrats on congressional intelligence committees are demanding information from the Trump administration's escalating strikes on drug-running vessels, which have killed at least 43 people. U.S. Representative Jim Hines of Connecticut and Senator Mark Warner of Virginia wrote to DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, asking about the intelligence service's role in the strikes. In the letter to Gabbard, the lawmakers wrote that the administration is withholding important information about the strikes and their effects, including the evidence that prompted the strikes and the justification for lethal force. Quote, please tell us in writing whether the intelligence community attorneys have independently analyzed the legality of these strikes and the potential for legal repercussions for IC personnel who support them, the lawmakers wrote. And, of course, Gabbard did not immediately respond to the letter because, of course, why should she? My God, they think they can act with impunity. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell announced the move on X, saying the deployment, quote, will bolster U.S. capacity to detect, monitor, disrupt illicit actors and activities that compromise the safety and prosperity of the United States homeland and our security in the Western Hemisphere. The warships will add to the 10,000 troops and dozen F-35 fighters which have been sent to the region over the last several weeks. Good God. The actions, which expanded into the Pacific on Thursday with an 8th strike, have killed dozens of people the Pentagon has labeled narco-terrorists. The administration has said the killings are lawful, but has not provided a legal rationale for the military's use of force against civilians who are not engaged in war. Trump said Thursday he's unlikely to go to Congress for authorization to conduct the strikes. Quote, I don't think we're necessarily going to ask for a declaration of war. We're just going to kill the people that are bringing drugs into country. They're going to be like, dead. Again, this man has absolutely no interest, no regard, no consideration, no casual thought towards separation of powers and the usurpation of congressional power. I want to point this out. We don't have 3 co-equal branches. We were never supposed to have 3 co-equal branches. We have 3 coordinate branches, 3 powerful and important branches, all of them. But there was a clear hierarchy. Congress was supposed to be more powerful than the president, and the president more powerful than the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was actually supposed to be, yes, powerful and important, but the weakest of the branches. And Congress was supposed to be the final hand on top, more powerful than the president. And yet, because of laziness and partisanship and authoritarian impulses like we see from Trump, which are unprecedented, the executive, for all intents and purposes, and the Supreme Court are running roughshod over Congress. The founders assumed that the members of the respective branches would be jealous and guard their own power. So if you were in Congress, it doesn't matter if you liked this particular president, you weren't going to let him run roughshod over you because you want the power for yourself. Well, as power hungry as lawmakers are, the Republican lawmakers are power hungry, yes, but that's secondary to their fear of Donald Trump. They'd rather have the title and avoid Trump's wrath than have the title and wield the power if the power involves risking Trump's wrath, because they don't feel they'll have the title that much longer because he'll successfully primary them. But folks, this is not good. Again, Fox News is stunned by this news, and that's not good when you consider how much Fox is in the bag for this administration. The fact that they're concerned should have you concerned. And I thought this was supposed to be the pro-peace, pro no new wars president. Sure looks like we are heading for another war. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.